Thousands of years ago, Father Satan, also known as the god Enki, established the Brotherhood of the Serpent, or the Brotherhood of the Snake, and that was the original church.
The thing about that is, there doesn't seem to be much of any evidence outside of JOS circles for the Brotherhood of the Snake. I mean, aside from JOS, there's a couple of conspiracy nuts who claim that this Brotherhood became the Illuminati, and these people all use the same formula. They noticed that a lot of ancient civilizations utilize serpent symbols, and they've hammered that into a narrative and have created this group out of nothing but similar symbolism.
And what it was for was because human beings were denied immortality by the enemy gods. He established this to prepare us for the afterlife and the cycles of reincarnation and how to empower ourselves to get out of it. And this was the reason for religion.
But by that logic, there's bound to be some immortals living amongst us. So, where are they at? I mean, Ramses II, who is an icon venerated by the Joy of Satan, was thought to be a living god, and here's what he looks like now. I'm sorry, but the fact is, your life is going to end. Stop running from that fact. The idea of dying can be scary, but you're not going to be conscious of the fact that you're missing out on life. You know what you could do to live your life to the fullest before you die? You could stop wasting your life. You could stop sitting around chanting gibberish while the entire world passes you by.
And the runes was the original alphabet.
Well, that's almost true. Yes, the runes were an ancient alphabet, but Maxine claims that the runes were the original alphabet. The reason for this is pretty clear to me. Maxine wants to make you believe that the origins of everything was steeped in magic. But the fact is, the original alphabet was cuneiform, and there's no ancient myths about cuneiform being magical.
And the runes was the original alphabet. It's based on the constellations, and each of the constellations has a specific power.
Is there really any evidence of that? There's not much of any evidence that the Vikings had any concept of constellations in general. As for runic constellations, I could take the Klingon alphabet and match it up with constellations, but that doesn't prove anything except for the fact that I'm good at creating fiction.
There's no respect for valuable life. There's no respect for anything. The earth is just coming apart. All spirituality has been lost and corrupted.
Please tell me more about how awful the world is. Maxine sounds like a Christian preacher, going on about how awful the world is. This brings to mind a quote from Nietzsche. The Christian resolve to find the world evil and ugly has made the world evil and ugly.
The awakening exercises are done with the mudras. That's the original Egyptian Kabbalah, which is of the Brotherhood of the Snake.
Again, there's no evidence that an Egyptian Kabbalah ever existed, just like there's no evidence that a Brotherhood of the Serpent existed. All that Maxine provides as evidence for both of these things is some existing trivial similarities. And I'm not saying this to be a dick, but this is what makes JOS culty. You know the followers don't fact check the JOS clergy, because if they did, they'd start to see plot holes in the Joy of Satan doctrines. And the same thing goes for the claim that the ancient Egyptians used mudras. Maxine will point to hieroglyphics and say that any god making a specific hand gesture is using a mudra. Using that same logic, I could just as easily say that the ancient Egyptian gods were throwing up gang signs, and that statement would be just as valid as the claims Maxine is making, because I've used the same standard of evidence, which is simply, look at the picture, it looks similar to the thing.
And they don't remember anything that they've learned through all their past lives, and they begin at square one, and they're nothing more than a victim. And we've all been made victims.
And this is the mentality of conspiracy theorists. They have to believe that they are the victims of constant oppression, or else their conspiracies are invalid.
In the Christian church, all of them, doesn't matter whether they're Catholic, Protestant, or whatever, all have one agenda, and that is to enslave you spiritually. Take your money and make you pay for your own damnation. They take your money and give you more problems for your money. And it's the most wealthy and powerful institution on the face of this earth, and its stranglehold needs to be broken completely permanently, and they need to be annihilated off the face of this earth. What they have done is horrendous. Each and every one of us is affected. Just my knowing astrology. I'm a professional astrologer. I've been an astrologer for well over 30 years, and I've read some 10,000 astrology charts.
Again with the everything is terrible narrative. But that's part of the sales pitch. The salesman tells you about the harmful contaminants in your carpet so that he can sell you a vacuum. Maxine claims that your life is out of control, so she can sell you astrology, figuratively and literally.
I've been an astrologer for well over 30 years, and I've read some 10,000 astrology charts. Even when I was an atheist for over 15 years, astrology helped me because I understood the influences in my life, and even at sometimes as a human being, especially when an atheist, I was powerless. At least I understood what was happening, and I understood when it would be over with. People are basically lost. They're going through bad times a lot of times, and they don't even know why. 9 times out of 10, it's a bad Saturn transit. And astrology was a very, very important part of learning in these ancient original churches. People learned the stars, how to work with the stars in their lives, learned their own birth charts.
No, not really. Most of the ancient religious people watched the sky, but that's astronomy, not astrology. I mean, we're talking about people who lived before Pythagoras, which means that a lot of them believed that the Earth was flat, and they were unaware of the majority of the other planets in our solar system.
Has done nothing more than take that knowledge out of circulation, destroy every remnant of it that they could, and certain texts that weren't destroyed, they're in the Vatican vaults, and very few have access to those vaults, not even the top cardinals, just a select few, because it's all a lie. And the people that had this knowledge, like the Druids and the ancient pagan priests, were murdered and slaughtered. And then, you know about the witch trials. Anyone who had any knowledge were working magic, empowering their soul, or using their mind was systematically murdered by the Inquisition and deemed a heretic.
And this is a baseless claim that Joy of Satan seems to be founded on. Practically no one's been inside the Vatican vaults, so how are you going to claim that you know what's in there? As for the other claims, those require a lot of faith to believe in too, because there's no record of some destruction of knowledge. The Inquisition was meticulously documented, but you don't think anyone would record some massive destruction of books? But I'll level with you. I guess you could claim that the powers that be destroyed those records too. But if that's your reasoning, tell me why they didn't just destroy all of the records of what happened during the Inquisition. That would have been easier, and it would have been more practical than looking for anyone talking about one specific aspect of the Inquisition rather than the Inquisition as a whole. It's really ridiculous when you think about it. People would have to charge into other people's houses. They would have to charge into everyone's house, and they would have to just rifle through their books, and they would have to read through all of the gibberish inside their books. They'd have to read every single book that that person owned just to make sure that there wasn't anything talking about the destruction of books. Do you see how ridiculous that is? I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just pointing this out. Like, it's not practical.
And they have this pasty smile. You know, everyone's familiar with that silly, stupid-looking Christian smiley mask.
While I agree that hardcore Bible thumpers develop a pasty smile, it's more so likely that that sort of thing comes from being fake. I mean, your body projects what you're feeling, and humans pick up on that body language. That doesn't mean that there's something magic to it.
It's just like in palmistry. What's in the soul comes out through the hands.
A better phrase would be, what's in the mind comes out through the body. And it's understanding that phrase that can make you a successful palm reader or psychic. You can read people and convince them that you've got magic powers, when really, the only power you've got is the power to con people into giving you money. And if you want to know more about that sort of thing, go check out Darren Brown's YouTube channel.
Suggestion, psychology, misdirection, and showmanship.
just want to burn him at a stake and watch his witch's heart bubble.